Are you ready for this laugh out loud, riotous movie? Right?
This 90s comedy romp known as Hostels.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so...
It does go into... You go ahead.
Fuck yes, welcome to Have the Hype. My name is always Bryan Dressel. My name is always Chewie Darsow.
Hi.
Jonathan Hardesty.
Here.
Sam Garrison.
Yay!
Emily Blake, unfortunately, cannot be here and will never be back ever again. I'm kidding.
She's getting paid.
She's off doing work and getting paid for it.
But we're sacrificing pay to be here with you, the audience. We love you guys.
Yeah.
I'm getting
We
paid
love you
by
more than
the
Emily
amazing
does.
liberal system of California, guys. Thank you, California government, for understanding that, helping a woman out is a good thing.
Somewhere Trump is crying, and that makes me very
Fuck
happy.
you, Trump.
Special guest is we have Jackie back. Hi, Jackie.
Hi.
We had you on for Dazed and Confused and...
10 Cloverfield Lane.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good movies.
We had you on
Yeah,
for
they're
one
great
happy
movies.
movie, one not happy movie, and now a really not happy movie.
Yeah.
Although there
this
was an
time-
actor from Dazed and Confused in this thing. That's entirely
true.
why I asked you on. It wasn't just because we were having dinner. I'm like, hey, I need a guest. Do you want to be on?
I mean, I thought that's what it was.
It
And
was.
I was like, okay, yeah, sure.
At this trajectory, though, the next movie is going to be a real downer.
Oh, my God. I don't even want to be on that episode. I don't know what movie it's
What's
going to be.
sadder
But
than this movie?
Schindler's List.
Yeah, there we are.
American History X.
oh, there we go. That'd be a great one for Jackie.
God, I haven't watched American History X since college.
It's our downer comic arc.
We'll do a depressing month and just do all really sad movies, and Jackie be the co-host for the whole month.
That sounds great.
Okay, so we can do a quick where have you been doing. I can go first. I watched Batman and Harley Quinn. It's an animated film. Came out a while ago, sometime early or late in 2017. I want to say early 2018. Stars Kevin Conroy back as Batman, which is awesome, and Melissa Ranch as Harley Quinn, which she had never done before, and she fucking crushed it. It was way funnier than I thought it would be. Like, I'd heard that it was pretty decent, and that's the only reason I rented it, because I'm like, I can take pretty decent. I like that. But it's, like, surprisingly funny. It's like a road trip movie with Batman, Nightwing, and Harley Quinn. And it shouldn't work nearly as well as it does, but it's willing to make fun of itself a lot, and it has, like, some rude humor, according to the MPAA, that, like, this is surprisingly, like, oh, this is for kids, but I'm really laughing hard at it. And I enjoyed the hell out of it, and I don't want to spoil anything for it. If you haven't watched a trailer, don't, but if you're into DC animated films at all, this one's pretty high up on the list for me.
I'll talk about how I just continue to be disappointed in the Goldbergs. It's a show that was so good, but it's really...
It's as bad now as it was good then.
It's so frustrating. And there's just...
So heartbreaking.
I don't even know how to describe it. It's like they have like things on the wall in their writer's room. And they just have a wall that's dedicated to movies they haven't mentioned yet. And then the other wall is dedicated to how do we make Barry important anymore. And then the other wall is how can we make the daughter take her mom for granted and then learn the same lesson she learns in like every episode. And it's so by the numbers at this point and going down deeper and deeper into the 1980s movies of whether or not you care to remember that movie happened.
They did an episode devoted to Real Genius.
Yeah, that was the episode we just watched.
Ugh.
And it was cute. But then you had the whole subplot with the sister dropping out of college and then them trying to how to make that uplifting. And then you still ended up with her taking her parents for granted, learning some sort of lesson, crying and hugging her mom at the end. And then in the next episode, she's going to take her mom for granted again. It's just annoying at this point.
That's why I stopped watching it.
I know. There's still really funny moments that make me want to watch it because at least there's one great moment in each episode. But they just need to cancel themselves because they have run out of ideas.
And I do have a friend who works on the show. Not a friend, but a guy I know, and he does good work. Congrats on the job.
We have friends that work on it, and I love them, and I want them to be employed, but I also want shows to be good.
I mean, I honestly didn't know anyone watched the Goldbergs.
Brian, I used to be a huge proponent of it. I used to talk it up all the time.
Oh,
I got
First,
people to watch it.
2.5 seasons are solid.
They
like really
super
funny.
solid.
I started watching it and then I had to stop because that little boy's voice is so annoying.
That's why I can't watch the
Well,
middle.
he's a
I
man
couldn't.
now, so
Okay.
They actually used him going through puberty in the show, which was nice.
Because you couldn't avoid it with his voice.
No.
Every line was cracking the poor kid.
Yeah. He's gotten a lot
It's just so
taller.
bad.
He's going to be taller than Barry soon if he's not already, and they're just trying to hide it.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
Sam, what about you?
I have been watching a Netflix docu-series called Evil Genius. It is.
I've heard that's good.
It's really good, but true crime is so hard because it's real, and like a man really did get exploded while having a bomb strapped to him while robbing a bank, and they don't really pull any punches in showing the footage. And it's really interesting because the people involved are absolutely fascinating and sad, and it's a very convoluted and like I can't believe this is real kind of case. But as with all true crime, it leaves you with that icky feeling of like watching other people, like it rides that line of like exploitation and entertainment, and
Like I shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here experiencing
Yeah.
this or enjoying it.
yeah, it's really interesting. It wrapped up about as respectfully as it could though, and it did kind of do a good job of vindicating the man who was the victim, because for so long police just assumed he was involved, and that was the nice thing, is it did kind of redeem itself at the end, and you saw that his family was involved, and it did have a point, and it's worth checking out, certainly, with the caveat that like all true crime kind of makes me feel a little icky.
How brutal is the footage? Like, I'm really squeamish these days. The closer I get to being a dad, my squeamish level is like through the roof right now.
I had to take a break after
Okay.
it happened. It's not a binge watching show at all. It's only 4 episodes, thank God, but they're heavy episodes, and it's fine to watch them very slowly.
Okay.
I think.
John, what about you?
I'll go quick. I watched a movie called Wish Upon, that horror film where this girl.
That looked awful.
It was.
I like that actress.
I like that actress, and
she's good.
And one interesting thing was experiencing Ryan Felipe as a dad, a scruffy older dad.
Weird.
And that, I mean,
Felipe.
that's
Such a heartthrob.
the thing, is like he was still like, there's a scene where she gets what she wants and he becomes a famous musician, and so he's like playing his like jazz saxophone with his bros in this mansion now all of a sudden because of the wish. And that's the Ryan Felipe. I was like, okay, I get that, like he could be like the hot famous dad, but then like as they're trying to downplay him as like this
he
working
is.
class blue collar dumpster diving dad with like a brown coat and boots, and it's like, I'm not buying it.
He's too hot to be poor.
I never found him hot.
I
He
don't
was
either.
very 90s curly hair blonde boy.
Oh,
Yeah, perfect.
he's just a wonder in Antitrust.
God, I saw that movie in theaters. For Harrison Ford.
Even I didn't see it in theaters.
I did. I remember screaming, "Don't hurt Harrison Ford, he's old."
In the 90s, he was old. What
So
is
yeah, that's
he
Wish
now?
Upon.
Yeah, don't watch Wish Upon.
What's crazy is that Harrison Ford is like only 72.
But
I mean-
he's looked so old for a
Yeah,
while
but if he keeps
now.
crashing planes, that adds 10 years to your life every time. If you were able to survive
So
it,
he's what,
which-
102?
Yes.
I remember when he got his earring and everyone said he was going through a midlife crisis.
It's going through an end-of-life crisis. He's been slowly dying
It
for 20
worked.
years.
Yeah.
This is the great ring of power that holds my face together.
Love you, Harrison.
If you lose that, his face is just
melting.
gross. Jackie, what about you?
I just watched the new Melissa McCarthy movie, The Life of the Party. I thought it was really funny. It wasn't the best movie I ever watched, but it's about Melissa McCarthy. She sends her daughter off to college for her senior year of college. And as she's driving off with her husband basically says, "Hey, we're going to get a divorce." And her life comes crashing down. She doesn't know what to do. She actually ended up quitting college early so her husband could finish because they were pregnant with their daughter. So she decides to go back, finish her college degree. She goes to the same school as her daughter, so it's kind of awkward. But I thought it was really funny, yeah.
How much,
Melissa McCarthy's hilarious.
How much Melissa McCarthy riffing is there?
A lot.
Oh, I can't
Yeah.
say it then.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Oh, you don't like her?
I love Melissa McCarthy. I think she's hilarious, but when editors don't know when to cut her off with riffing, I think that her great stuff is like the beginning of the riff, and then by the end she's done.
Yeah.
And that's when I don't find it funny anymore, and I feel like every editor just leaves it till she's done talking. It's like, that stopped being funny a minute ago.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't her funniest movie. I wouldn't recommend spending the money to go see it in theaters. But when it comes out, you know, if you like her, you like comedy, watch it.
Or if you've got Movie Pass.
Yeah, exactly. I have Movie Pass, and that's why I watched it.
Yeah.
Let's be real.
I almost saw Girls Trip with my movie pass. And
Really?
I just wasn't able to see
Dude,
it. I
that
didn't have
movie's
time.
like really good though.
I've heard it's really good, so I wanted to go see
You
it.
should see it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's really fun. It's Tiffany Haddish, man. She's
Yeah.
hilarious.
I really wanted to see it, and then I didn't have time.
Yeah, she's such a cool person.
Yeah.
Was that everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so the fun stops here.
All right. Bummer alert
Unless
in 3.
you like
Yeah.
mustaches.
Yeah, I guess.
That's an impressive mustache.
It is. It looks like it'd be a pain in the ass to eat soup through.
Yeah, don't eat soup. No soup
It's a
for you.
real
Well, it's a
soup
good way to
strainer.
store soup for later.
Yum.
Anti-starvation mustache.
So the movie we're talking about today is Hostels. The movie came out last year, and when it was being originally promoted, this was going to be the big Oscar push movie, and then disappeared. And like nobody saw it. And the main reason we're reviewing it today is because I really wanted to see it, and I knew I didn't have time, so I decided to add it to the After the Hype calendar and make sure that I watch it, which I've done a few times. This one is it wasn't quite as funny as I was hoping it was going to be.
Funny?
Funny is not the word I'd use to describe it. But I know somebody who can describe it very well in probably about 30 seconds.
Oh, God.
You remember you had to do this, right?
Yeah,
It was-
I know. I've been mentally preparing myself.
Okay, so here we go. Hostels in 30 seconds. Here we go, 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 go.
Okay, the year is 1892, and Christian Bale is a soldier, and he's given orders by the President of the United States to bring this Native American chief and his family back to their home in Montana, and they have to take them through dangerous territory where there's other Native Americans that like killing people and other white people that like killing people, and a lot of people die.
It's pretty close.
Highly accurate.
I was so close to fail you, but then a lot of people die. Well, that is the end of the movie. Okay, yeah, it's a success.
Yeah. Woo.
Okay, so the point that I want to start with this movie is that I didn't read a lot of the reviews on it. I didn't really look into the money because I know it didn't really make a lot of money. I remember hearing about it back when it first was getting announced, like, oh, it's Christian Bale's Oscar bait movie. Okay, cool, and he does act very well in it. And that's really kind of because the thing with this movie, and we'll get into it more and more as we talk, but the broad strokes of this film is about our relations with Native Americans in the country and how basically we fucked them over in the worst way imaginable, and we are all horrible. Great. Okay, so we want to tell a movie about that story, and then this movie doesn't develop a single Native American character. And you have some of the best Native American actors in the world in this, and you don't really let them do anything.
No.
And like I can't really get past that
Even
to
their
talk about the
sick
rest of the
kills
movie.
were off screen.
Yeah.
It's to white guilt what Dances with Wolves was to All You Need Is a White Man.
Yeah, it's a really weird choice from a pretty strong director. Like, this guy has told some pretty brutal stories and told them very well. Yeah. And I think the story of Christian Bale and Rosamund Pike in this movie is great, and I think they tell that story very well. But that's not the story that we should be watching, if that makes sense.
Even if they had chose to focus on Christian Bale and his relationship with his Buffalo Soldier lieutenant, like,
Yeah.
there's so many more
Do
interesting.
you mean Tommy?
Yeah.
The one who chases down Ben Foster?
No, the black guy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been great.
Leaves the movie so quickly.
It's
Not
such a
as-
shame because they had such that was my favorite moment in the film was their final interchange.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was beautiful. Like, there's literally the Christian Bale Rosamund Pike story is nice, but it's literally the least interesting story in
And-
this movie.
yeah, absolutely.
Like, there's a little kid who's going home and he's never seen home before. What is that like for him? What is it like for this guy dying of cancer? What is it, and who's done horrible things in his life and has to reckon with them? You know, like, everyone's more interesting.
Yeah, like that's kind of like then
Yeah.
the character Tommy that I mentioned a moment ago. He was the guy from Dazed and Confused.
And Oculus.
And Oculus, of course. But Jackie wasn't on that episode.
Yeah.
But like his character, I think he is fascinating. He's a guy who's regretted every single thing he's done throughout his entire life is suffering from, I think Chewie disagrees with him, but I think he's suffering some pretty strong PTSD.
Yeah.
Some
I
horrible,
think so, yeah.
I mean, yeah.
horrific guilt. And
They
he's,
say
I'm not
that.
saying he
They
didn't have
say he's got-
PTSD. I was just saying
it's more of guilt for everything
later
he's
on
done.
in that
Yeah.
scene.
They even address it. They say he's got the melancholia.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
no, this
for
guy's
me, that's
seriously
just
depressed.
severe depression, not just PTSD.
And like that character is super interesting, and the way that his story plays out is wonderful. Even Ben Foster's character of like, no, we were all in an army together, and our army was to kill the Native Americans.
And he just like never took that off.
yeah, he
Like,
never turned that switch off. So he's like, why are you guys judging me? I'm doing what we do. Like all of this, super interesting.
Yeah.
And then we spend the whole movie with Christian Bale and Rosamund Pike.
Oh, and there's like a token rape happening.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah. Just needed to get the rape in there, guys.
There was such a wait what moment when they're like, yeah, I'm sorry you got raped. I was like, what?
Yeah,
They
like,
never
I
said
do-
that. He expressed concern for her vagina on
right.
whether or not
Can
she
you
could
ride
ride
a
a
horse?
No,
horse.
about the native woman. He was like, I'm
Oh.
sorry
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah.
what he didn't even apologize to her. He's like, I'm sorry what happened to the woman.
I mean, that one I can kind of go like that was the time because
That
he
was
would
the
not
time.
have approached her. Like that's fine, but it's still just like I appreciate the movie didn't show it because I feel like a lot
Thank
of movies
God.
these days
Right.
would have shown that, and I like that they just leave it implied without like purposely going like I can't believe they all got raped. Like it could have been handled much worse, but it's still like it added nothing to the movie. Like it really like it happens, and then within 5 minutes, it's like it never happened at all.
Yeah,
and we
the
just moved
women
past it.
recover real
Exactly.
fast.
Well, then they rescue them like that same night.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
that they
a couple
take
hours
them.
too late.
Yeah.
There's just like I think that's why I have so many problems with the movies because like as much as I enjoy it and like there's so many things to like and we'll get through those too, but I feel like this movie it hits the wrong point whenever it can. Like whenever there's like you can go left or right and left is bad, right is good, it goes left. And it's
Yeah.
like, why?
I agree.
It's very frustrating.
I think it's an example of a director who thought he had something to say, but then he's not familiar enough with the subject matter to actually have something to say, and he just focuses on the white guilt of it all,
Yeah.
and that makes it shallow.
Yeah, shallow is a very good word for it because like I could see in a potentially I like this director.
You
Potentially
can
in
like
some-
the director too, and then he just chose a subject that he thought he knew how to tell, and he doesn't.
No, what I was going to say was I was like, maybe in a stronger director's hands, this could have been handled differently. But I think he is a pretty strong director. I think he's done very good work. I just didn't really like his choices in this one. But beyond that, like I want to talk about some of the stuff that actually does work in this movie, and like a lot of it is some of the like the side stuff. I just don't think the main thread's the stuff that works. But from a technical aspect, there's the word. I think this movie was wonderfully
I
shot.
like technical ass point.
I love those technical ass points.
Tactical ass points. Thank you very much.
It was beautifully shot.
It was beautifully shot.
Yeah, I agree.
It
And
was.
like especially the main showdown between was it the Cheyenne, the ones were they the ones that were hunting them?
Comanche.
Comanche. I don't,
Cheyenne were the ones that they were escorting.
okay.
Yeah.
So the Comanche attacking them like the first time, that entire sequence was shot so well and like in ways that I haven't seen Western shot before because it was a very modern way of shooting it and the way that kind of like you were almost a horse in some of the scenes, like you were eye level with horses, not the people, and I thought that was a really interesting way to try to shoot that.
It made it very stressful. And
Yeah.
in a very good way, very tense. There was a very tense moment that you don't get that for the westerns. That's not how they're usually shot. You're like, well, this is a shootout. It's going to end one way. But I'm like, how is this going to end? What's going on? I'm confused, but in a good way. Like, what's
Yeah, and like you have characters that you think you're going to be with for the whole movie who just come and gone, and it's like holy shit.
Like Timothée.
Timothy.
Timothy Chalamet.
I was so excited to see him in the movie. I'm like, oh, I didn't know he was in this one. Timothy. Oh, there he goes.
he's gone?
Yeah.
Bye.
He gets shot in the shoulder, and then you see the amount of blood coming out, and you're like, well, you're dead.
And then they shoot him in the face.
Yeah, but he.
They were like,
And
he
then
is
don't they
too
run
pretty.
the horse over him too?
Look at
the
that
thing
pretty
is,
man.
he was already
Yeah,
dead
they just
before then.
brutalized that sweet
Yeah, so
child.
they shoot him in the arm, shoot him in the face, and the horse steps on him. Like it's
He's
Someone
too
didn't
pretty
like
to
him.
be alive.
Another thing that I like that a lot of westerns forget to do, especially when it's kind of like a road movie, is the change in the scenery.
Yeah.
It actually looked like they were
Yeah.
moving north instead of like they spent all their time shooting in New Mexico. And I love that it got the fir trees, and when they were in Montana, you actually felt that visceral sense of being in a different place, in a beautiful place, in a new place.
Well, fun facts. The movie was shot chronologically, and they
Oh.
traveled from New Mexico to Colorado.
Dope.
So that does explain like how the the scenery did change because they just kept moving, and I thought that's
really cool.
I like that they did that, and that also kind of kept, like, I joked with Chewie while watching, like, the day rate of this movie had to be insane because all of their stars are on set together at all times.
They might have taken cuts.
Yeah, they might have, but
if they all thought this was going to be an Oscar bait movie.
Yeah, that's possible. And I'm sure they try to shoot around it as much as possible, but with this much location shooting, like, everyone's there at all times. This was not. I mean, I think they spent about $30 million on it. So with that,
39 according to Wikipedia.
So closer to 40. But so clearly they were not paying everyone their full rate.
Yeah.
I don't think it's possible.
No.
I don't know what Christian Bale's rate is, but I imagine
the-
he's quite expensive to get
Yeah.
the movie.
He also frequently takes pay cuts. Like that's the reason he
Yeah.
continues to work with the same directors over and over
He's
again.
worked with this guy a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
'Cause they
loves
did out of
acting.
they did Out of the Furnace together
Yeah.
too, right? Yeah.
Which is the only other movie I've seen by him. I've
Oh,
seen,
dude, you should see Crazy Heart.
Oh, I
It's
did see Crazy
far
Heart.
and
Sorry,
away his
I
best
forgot
movie.
that. Yeah. Crazy Heart was wonderful. Like,
Yeah.
he's made some really good stuff.
I would say for shooting wise, one of the shots, they repeated it a few different times that I appreciated. The overhead shot in, I forgot her name's tent.
Rosamund Pike's
tent. Because at this time, it was very common for people to take death photos, if you didn't know that. They would take their dead loved ones and they would pose them or lay them down, take a picture of them in their casket, something like that. And they shot her laying down in the tent so beautifully multiple times, especially when Christian Bale came in the tent with her. They kept it really dark, they kept it very somber, and they looked like corpses. Like, they looked like they were already dead together. And I don't know if they were just doing that because of the imagery from like the late 1800s, or if they were just trying to like make a comment on how they both feel dead inside, but they still live.
Because she talked about that. She had that line that said she kind of is jealous of the finality of death.
Yeah. Which is a really good scene. And like and there's that one, and then there's it's the scene where Tommy, I forget the actor's name, but Tommy basically tells Christian Bale, like, hey, I'm ready to die. Like, there's these scenes that are just like, they're just fucking brutal, but they're so well acted. And like that guy, like I don't even remember his name, which I really should. I'll look it up as I'm talking. But like, his performance is so good. Like, the performances around the two main people are so good, and like
They're like on a different level.
Yeah, exactly. And like,
well,
and
they
this,
gave them the most to do.
They really. The thing is, I think they give Christian Bale a lot to do, but a lot of that is just internalizing what's happening around him. So it's not like it's the most like engaging performance, because part of his performance is to not be engaging.
One of my favorite things about him as an actor is how, like, for as much shit as he has, like, in his reputation or whatever, like, he really does elevate the actors around him. He usually acts in such a way that, like, other people get to shine, while he just anchors everything by, like, glowering in an interesting way. And I don't say that sarcastically. Like, I think he's one of the most underrated actors working. And as much as I dislike the focus of this movie, like, I can see why you'd have Christian Bale anchor this, because every character is so interesting and it could have so easily gotten off track and gone in a million different directions.
I specifically, performance-wise, like the moment when they're eating him, Ben Foster, and the guy from Breaking Bad, because I can never remember his name.
Jesse Plemons.
Jesse Clemens are eating around.
Just call him Fat Damon.
Whatever.
It's fine. Meth Damon, you know.
They're eating, and that's when Ben Foster's talking about the whole "this is what we do" thing, and his name's Jesse again. Or?
Jesse, yeah.
Yeah. Says, I don't remember. He's like the liberal in the group, essentially.
He's like the West Point educated man.
Yeah. And they start doing their little back and forth, and Christian Bale actually gets that face that I totally recognize, especially like when you talk politics at work, of the person that goes, oh, fuck, gotta shut this down. But it's like really subtle and everything in a really good way, and then he's just like, take him back to the tree.
I like that, and I also really like the scene where they take their one break that they get throughout the entire trip, where they're in the town. They try to dump Rosamund Pike, and she's like, nah, I'd rather be with you. And the whole thing of like the colonel's wife just talking about how horrible the Americans were to the Native Americans, and it's like you can see this inner turmoil of like, you might be right, but a bunch of Native Americans just brutally murdered my entire family.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't the right time for this conversation. And it's like, it's wonderful. Like, Rosamund Pike does such a good job with this character, because you can see her, like, the internal mechanics of, like, this tribe brutalized me, this tribe didn't. And it's, like, figuring that out. And, like, it's great watching it, because I think as well as Christian Bale did, I think she kept up with him the whole way because all of her performance, just like him, is all internal.
I love
and
that
in that
she
scene,
never, I
sorry.
love that she just never fell into bitterness.
Yeah.
Like she was a good person the whole
She
way
was
through.
the whole way through.
Well, and like with that the first attack scene, how tense that was. That same conversation that we're talking about now was also tense for different reasons. It was very interesting how it was all just in her acting. Like I was also being like, what is going on? How is she dealing with this? Because yes, I agree with you, the wife talking about these ideals, but there's also this other little thing, and just a murky area to be in at that moment.
Well, I mean, it's almost a comment on racism in a way of like you can't demonize an entire race because some people suck. And it's like
that's true.
I really appreciate that Rosamund Pike's character stayed true to that the whole way through. Like she really grew to love the child that she eventually adopts at the end of the film. Like you can see like their relationship getting stronger and stronger throughout the film. And it's this great sort of like she's not quite replacing her family, but you can tell she kind of is making a Band-Aid because what she just went through is impossible to go through. The baby she was holding, we haven't talked about. The baby in the beginning of the movie that she's holding gets shot as she's running away. Like this movie,
That was really sad.
the opening of this movie was way more
I'm so
brutal than I
confused as to
expected.
how both your daughters get shot in the back, your baby gets shot, and you don't get shot.
Well, she turned around for her daughters, and then as she turned around, the baby got shot. That had to be a real shitty bullet because that thing should have ripped through the baby like tissue paper. But it didn't for some reason.
No.
In actually, bullets then those were like powder guns.
Oh, I guess that's true. Yeah,
like
yeah.
human flesh would stop it.
Yeah.
I hate that I know that, but I do.
No, you're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
That's actually why wounds were so much more lethal back in the day because there was no exit, so there was just like lead chilling inside your gushing
Itty bitty little
bloodstream.
craters,
Yeah.
craters of death.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Craters of death.
it definitely got me to attention. So you're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
this is gonna be a violent thing. Oh God.
I like too that Rosamund Pike, her character, especially at the end, always referred to the native women by their native names,
Yeah.
even though they introduced themselves in English. Like she said Nene, and then she said Elk Woman, and she always called her by the native version of her name. Like
Yeah.
there was definitely like a respect and a kinship there that was kind of again like a more interesting version of the story.
Yeah.
Like you're
what
asking the
about-
camera to stay there at that
like,
moment.
I want to see these two women develop a friendship, and I want to see her grow to want to defend these women in a way she couldn't defend her own family, because she was kind of passive at the beginning. Not passive, but, she and her husband had a plan, and she followed it, and she watched everyone die. She watched that plan fail, and she just hardened through this movie.
Yeah.
Not in her heart, but, like, she got tough. And it's like, dang, there's so many amazing characters in this movie that I just wish, as much as it was so slow, I kind of wanted to spend more time with everyone else because they weren't on these internal journeys.
Yeah.
Well, it's from an editing standpoint, I almost kind of wish that this had taken an editing stance similar to like the Kelly Reichardt film. I'm drawing a blank on the name all of a sudden. The Western that she did. Oh, fuck. Hold on.
Well, while you talk about that, I'll talk about the editing of this movie because I think the editing of this movie was as bad as the cinematography was good.
Thank you.
The thing is, like, the editor is not a bad editor. He's just not a Western editor. Like, he's just not, like, he does musicals and that sort of stuff. And he's won an Academy Award for editing Whiplash. Like, he's a solid editor. It's just this was not in his wheelhouse. And it was very cutty. And that just feels weird in a Western. Like, I was raised on Westerns. Like, I love Westerns. So, like, when Western is slow, I'm like, cool, you can make it slower. I'm into this. Like, I like this world. And they hired the right director, the right cast, the right screenwriter. All the people were in the right places, and then they got like a Marvel movie director, like a Marvel movie editor.
It's
like
a
this
strange choice.
Yeah, it never like the action sequences are super cutty. A lot of it was super cutty, and like that's fine for certain movies, but this one begs you to stay, like to just sit and experience these moments. And this editor's not that editor. He's just not that sort of guy.
Like
And
he
that's-
edited The Greatest Showman before
Yeah.
this, either
Oh,
before or
really?
after.
yeah.
Oh.
So then you're like, why? Like, what made you think this guy was a good choice? Like, maybe they're friends or something, or he wanted to like try to prove himself in another genre.
I mean, I think you look at Whiplash and you're like, holy fuck, that's a good editor.
Yeah,
I want to
he's-
hire that
But again,
guy.
Absolutely,
that's
yeah.
still editing the music.
It's just a very different style of editing.
Yeah.
I just do not think he was the right call for
to
this.
be cheesy, it's also in not cutting too. Like
Yeah.
as an editor, like that one's almost harder than cutting because it's easier just to cut away and just make it to the beat. But then to focus and stay, like the movie Meek's Cutoff from Kelly Reichardt.
Okay.
They stay. The frame like stays with these moments, and it just forces you to stay there for long stretches of time. And I think this movie could have actually done really well with that.
Yeah, or like Assassination of Jesse James. Like that one, that one really knew what shots to hold on, and like it did a great job of that. This one, I feel like it either needed a different director in the room or like a different producer in the room, like somebody to tell him to stop cutting. Yeah. Like, because it just needed, like, except for the action sequences, I get it. They're a little cutty for my taste, but that's fine. That's what people like these days. But the rest of it, like, it just needed to slow down just a little bit, and I think it would have been a little bit smoother. Like, the editing would have matched the movie a little bit better.
The scene to me that illustrates my frustrations with that the most is when they do get to Montana, and then you have the wide shot of them looking at Montana, and then you only get that for a very brief period, and then you flip to them staring at it, and then it just stays with them staring at it, and then the whole time I'm like, why can't I see them talking from their backs? And I can actually see what they're looking at, because I didn't really get the expansiveness of that moment.
Part of that was the lack of development of native characters. We wouldn't have known who was talking because we didn't know their voices enough. But yes, it felt like a smaller moment than it needed to be.
I didn't get the big satisfaction of getting to my destination out of that shot.
The music was pitch perfect there, and then the moment was so small and claustrophobic.
Yeah. And I think it's another thing with this movie. Like there's so many things in this that's like, that's the movie that I want to see.
Right. And
then we cut away from it. And it's like, so you take the actor, I always mispronounce his name. He's the third build in the movie. Wes Studi. Is it Studi? Is that right?
I think so.
I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, and I apologize for that. But like, he is one of the most well-known, acclimated, just amazing Native American actors ever. Like, if there's a movie that needs a strong Native American actor in it, this is the guy you go for, and he's going to do great every time. Or if you need a crazy guy in Mystery Men, you got that too.
Terribly mysterious.
Well, half of the movie, the Native Americans are chained up.
Yeah.
They can't even, and there's that whole conflict where, the chief is like, hey, we just had this battle, and a bunch of people died. If I wasn't chained up, we could have helped.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you also have one of my favorite Native American actors, Adam Beach.
So good.
I don't even remember him actually having a line in this movie.
He has a few. I don't think he has a single line in English, but he has a few.
It's all like background. Like, it's so weird that to me, he's such a recognizable face. Like, I was annoyed when he died right away in Suicide Squad.
God, what a waste.
Right?
Yeah. It's just
one of the best actors in that movie, and they kill him in the first 5 minutes.
And this movie,
I wanted stuff from him, and he's just the background dude.
This movie almost lingers on him more in his death and the moment of being shot than it does to give him time to be a character.
Yeah.
But because we didn't know him, his death meant nothing. Right. And it's just like, it's... Ugh.
And like the women, they were so like... I don't think the one daughter, living woman, had any lines. But her face was so captivating in every scene. Like, you knew exactly what she was thinking. And it's like, why? Like, number one, your name promises a story.
Yep.
I want to get to know you. And two, she was just like kind of always in the background, like not just reacting, but like engaged in the scene. And it was like, man, why aren't you taking advantage of this clearly incredible actress you've got back there?
But like, there's a movie in here that like, that I think would have been a great story. And I feel like maybe they think they told it, but they didn't. And it's this out of war warriors. Like, the warriors no longer in war. And like, you can see the frameworks of it there. Like, it's kind of in the wings a little bit. But you have Christian Bale and Wes Studi, who are horrific warriors. Like, they make that clear and well known that these guys, they didn't just win fights. They brutalized the fuck out of their enemies. Like, they were scary. Yeah. And now they're no longer in war. And now that they're not in war, they're not bad people. Like, everyone loves Christian Bale. He is a great general. He knows every single person in his camp, and everyone loves him as like the wonderful person. And it's the exact same for Wes Studi's family. And like, there could be like a really great duality story of these two guys becoming friends outside of war, and we just don't ever really go there.
And you've got the genre that's perfect for this.
Yeah, if they had done something along the lines of, so you have Christian Bale and a whole troop of white people taking this troop of Native Americans home. If all the white people died in the first encounter, just gone, and now he has to go on a road trip with a family of Native Americans, like, there's a different movie. Like, it might have been more interesting to watch him have to overcome that with these people. And like, there's so many just almost there movies.
What you're saying is doubly frustrating because we got the end conversation of what you wanted.
Yeah.
We got him saying goodbye to him and calling him a friend and them holding hands, but we didn't earn that moment.
No, there's quite a few unearned moments in this, and like it's just kind of. I feel like there's a 3.5-hour version of this movie somewhere out there that I would totally watch because I'd want to see these stories played out. Like I want to see these people.
It'd be a really good miniseries.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a nice Western miniseries, just taking its time, letting us get to know all these people. An episode devoted to kind of different relationships.
Yeah.
Please
Yeah.
watch the shit out
This
of
could
that.
be a very good 8 to 10 parter, depending on
Yeah.
how you want
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah, and like there's, and I think that's kind of why I still enjoy the movie, and I'm still glad that I saw it because there are these little like nuggets of goodness throughout the whole thing. I hate that the one that we're left with was the least interesting one. What else worked for people?
Well, Jackie, you said you fell asleep the first time you watched it.
Yes, I did.
How
I
was
fell
it the
asleep.
second time? Like,
The second time, it was good. It was still hard to concentrate, not gonna lie.
Do you like westerns?
I don't know.
Okay.
And I don't like slow movies. So,
So you
this
really don't like westerns.
what worked the
so
most?
this was
and didn't
very
work the most
painful
you?
for me to
Yeah.
watch.
And you even told us beforehand that you don't really like Christian Bale, but
Yeah,
like,
I
do you like his performance?
It's like the worst movie for me. Yeah, I mean, I think he's a great actor. He's an amazing actor.
Okay.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, I loved him in a bunch of movies. I love him in The Prestige. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Good.
I think he's a great actor. I just don't. I don't know. Something.
You don't
about
have to,
him
like-
rubs me
You
the
don't really
wrong
wanna work
way.
He's a very good example of you can love the art and not the artist.
Yes, and I love plenty of art and not the artist. You know.
But is there anything
Um,
specific that you could pull out of this movie, either love or hate?
I mean, I really liked how they recognized, like, oh man, we treated these Native Americans so badly. And the scene where, I don't know his name, the guy that has, like, the PTSD,
Tommy.
yeah. He goes to the chief's tent and apologizes for all the wrongdoing that they did to Native Americans. I mean, it obviously doesn't make up for it, and he just gives him tobacco. He's like, here.
That's actually a
Have
very
tobacco.
traditional thing.
Okay.
That was very symbolic.
Okay.
It's Rory Cotrain, by the way. That's the actor's name. I finally looked it up.
Okay. I mean, I liked that moment. I thought
Actually,
was
that
good.
moment to me spoke very heavily about
Yeah.
it's between him knowing the tobacco offering and both of them being able to speak Cheyenne. Like, it's a kind of beautiful illustration of you were my enemy, but I respected you enough to learn about you. And then
I think I got that both from him and Christian Bale a little bit, like because they both
Yeah, that's
learned
what
the
I mean.
language,
They-
which says
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, that does.
that
say
says a
lot.
shit ton
Yeah.
about being able to have honor in war in a way.
Because I would bet, and I can't confirm this because it's not in the movie, and it should have been. I would bet Ben Foster can't speak the language,
No, probably not.
and that's something that really should have been in the movie because it would have. Because the whole time Ben Foster thinks that he and Christian Bale are equals. Hey, we both brutalize these people. Why are you mad at me? And it's like because you're not doing it for war, you're doing it for your own gain, and there's the misconnect. And if they had just done something as simple as have him say something to him in Cheyenne, and have him go, "What?" you immediately
Yeah.
get everything.
The best warriors know thy enemy.
Yeah.
Da-da-da.
I'm a big Ben Foster fan, and I like that he's kind of gotten a renaissance in these like westerns movies. Like every western now, I feel like they need to shove Ben Foster in there somewhere.
And
I'm
they
totally okay
do.
with this.
I think they should
Yeah.
shove Ben Foster into most things. At
Yeah,
this
I
point.
love Ben Foster.
Even him being a wizard was super satisfying.
He was such a good wizard.
He was a great wizard.
When was he a wizard?
World of
World
Warcraft.
of Warcraft.
Yep.
Oh, I never saw that.
Oh, you're missing out on
Watching-
a
I
real
never saw
gem.
that either.
He
we
was.
did a double feature night where we watched World of Warcraft and then we watched Hell or High Water, and I'm like,
Oh man,
It's a
Ben
double
Foster
night.
needs to win an Oscar.
he played like a very drippy, creepy wizard, and it was so great.
So good.
And
he
I
really knows how to choose scenery when he has to.
He really does.
it was,
This one he doesn't, and I really enjoy watching this one, and then thinking like, now he and Christian Bale have done 2 westerns where they are enemies. They're a little bit closer in this one than the other one, but
this is so great. He knows when to chew the scenery, but then when to not.
Yeah.
And when he chooses not to, it's almost even more powerful. Like this scene, he's scary to me in this movie, and it's just he underplays it so well.
oh yeah, it's one of those things where I don't think it's a problem in the movie. I actually kind of enjoy it, but the moment that he asked Jesse Plemons for help, and it's just like, oh, you're fucked. Like he doesn't ask him for help. He just like he coughs and like leans over. He goes to let him out. It's like, oh, you're gonna die
I was
now.
yelling during that scene. I'm like, you're falling for that?
It's like, don't fall
you're
for sick
so
prisoner.
dumb.
Yeah, and he's just like fake coughing, like.
Yeah.
It was like
kill
a
you.
Zoolander.
Yeah.
I've got the black glove.
Ben Foster is so great at acting, he can act bad acting.
Yeah.
There's actually something to be said for that. That's not
Yeah.
as easy to do as people would imagine.
Nope.
I'm trying to think of other things in this movie. Like we've really kind of plowed through a lot of it, but that's kind of how the movie treats it.
Can we
which is-
talk about my favorite scene
Absolutely.
with Christian Bale burying his gun in the desert, pondering whether or not I thought like
Let's
when
have some context for why this is your favorite scene.
At the beginning, Christian Bale is assigned this detail of like taking these natives to Montana, and he's so conflicted because these are his enemies. So he goes to the desert and falls to his knees while a thunderstorm is raging in the background, and it gets really like music video choppy there.
Yeah.
And he's like burying his gun and reaching his hands into the dirt, and
He's screaming without actually hearing him scream.
Yeah.
Burying my gun.
yeah. And so I, having seen AWOL Nation at Weenie Roast last weekend, started playing Sail on my phone. Oh my god! And created my own little music video in my living room. And it was the most fun I had watching this movie, but also the worst scene.
And so they also cut out the audio, and like that scene is like, okay, you're doing this.
Yeah,
Because
that
normally,
one-
like cutting out the audio, you're like, okay, it's supposed to be
Because
just
even when
visceral.
they had Rosamund Pike doing it later, like they left the audio of her like screaming and like being upset and digging in the dirt, and they're watching her like, we're not going to stop this, but like we need to stop this.
And that whale was haunting. And
that
it
was actually
effective.
a good moment.
yeah.
Oh, that moment, like the Chewie mentioned it when we were watching it, and she did. They let her work through her grief. Like they
Yeah.
They were
stand
actually
aside. And they like
very good at psychology.
Yeah,
for
I
that.
was amazed at how kind they were to
Yeah.
her.
yeah. Like I didn't expect everyone to be as okay with Rosamund Pike as they were. Like I thought like maybe Christian Bale will because he's
Well,
the
I
white
don't.
knight hero.
They
but-
didn't all really understand how to treat it, but Christian Bale, the moment he walked into the burned out house, saw her sitting there. You saw it in his eyes of I dealt with this before, and he knew
Yeah.
how to handle it. He
Like-
immediately knew to tell his men, "Be quiet. Her babies are sleeping." And
Oh,
like he handled
hard.
that
was so
situation like a boss. Like, I can't. It to me that illustrated his character so well.
And the respect his men had for
Yeah.
him.
Oh yeah.
To just they trusted him. And yeah, the amount of like little kindnesses in this movie were they were really neat. Like cuz
Yeah.
it's like you said, it's a movie about people who've done horrific things who are like probably just like good people, I think.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't say any of these people are bad. I was so happy, and it made it.
Well,
it-
Ben Foster.
Well, okay, yes, but, but like when Christian Bale chose to get on the train at the end, it was the best because I didn't want it to be the lone guy walking off on the
Yeah.
sunset. He'd earned his rest.
He absolutely. And it was one of those things where it was ending. I'm like, this is such a stereotypical ending. And then he started walking towards a train. I'm like, oh fuck, they're actually gonna make this a legit ending. And then Murder Express happened. But
And my stupid brain couldn't handle that moment though, because the moment he hopped onto the train, I'm like, you don't got a ticket. Now you're a freeloader.
Well, I think he still had his message from the president because he was supposed to get on the train at the end.
Well, he
that
was supposed
the
to
end of his service.
He was supposed to go east. I don't know if he was supposed to go straight to DC or not. He's going to Chicago, which is east of where they were. But I don't really understand. Well, I'm curious as to whether or not he still gets his pension, or if he was, because I thought he was supposed to report to the president then get his pension. If he's just going to Chicago to be with Rosamund.
He was going to report to that base in the town that they were in.
he never had to go to Washington. That
Yeah,
wasn't
I
part of
thought-
the deal.
I just
he was
remember
just-
his boss saying you have to go back east.
But he got
Yeah.
so much more in the end.
East to like Butte. And to
don't
where
know.
there's another
Okay.
military outpost.
I
And then
didn't
he was
catch
going to
that
check
part.
in to
Okay.
prove that he had done the job, explain what happened, take the little boy, and like that's
That'd be
his
a
retirement.
Well,
bummer.
I
for
mean,
meeting.
he didn't.
But what's nice is now
He
they
did
all
his
have money.
job.
I mean, they got to Montana, but like no one was alive at that point.
But he did exactly what he was told to do.
I mean,
Yeah.
he was supposed to get in Montana so he could be buried in Montana. He did that.
he never
and then
said,
he buried
they never
everyone
said
else.
keep everyone alive. That clearly wasn't
They
working
did
out.
say without incident, though. I do believe.
The moment he got handed those papers at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, people aren't gonna care.
I got super.
Well, and then we see that where they come
Yeah.
across those people that are like, "Get off my land! Stop
Yeah,
burying
one, they
that
probably can't
dead
read that
Indian here."
contract. Two, like, Sorry, there's
Yeah.
no internet. Who's gonna report them?
Yeah, exactly. I got a piece of paper. Okay, we don't care.
And here's a nice touch. Usually, whenever in a movie someone's like, "You're not gonna shoot that thing at me, are you? Ha ha! You're such a pansy." And it's like, "No, she shot him."
She just
Yeah, that
she
was
got
awesome.
her.
I was
That
like,
was
right away.
I asked in the scene when I saw the scene, I was like, "Please shoot him. Just shoot him, shoot him, shoot him." And he's like, "You're not gonna
He's
do it." It's like,
being a bitch.
yeah, and he got shot. And I was like, "Cool."
I think at that point she has nothing left to lose.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she's just like, all right.
I was
For
so
me, it was what we're
thoroughly-
doing now. Okay.
I was
Yeah.
so thoroughly confused though, because they said from President Harrison, and I forgot that we've had 2 President Harrisons, and I was like, that bitch died. Your journey lasted way longer than his life.
Also, one of them was very good to Indians, and the other one wasn't. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I don't know if he's very good. I don't know that.
Well,
One of
Benjamin-
them was worse.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
William Henry Harrison couldn't do much of anything for anyone because he was in office 30 days before the Civil War, but Benjamin Harrison took over after, and I don't know anything about him.
Yeah. You
'Cause
knew these
that's-
took place after.
Yeah, and I was like, I'm so confused.
He was an all right dude.
I mean, this movie with its dates kind of fucks up a little bit here and there. It's more stuff that I just looked up online. Like, at this point in time, the 2 tribes that are at war in this movie were totally fine with each other. Yeah, and
In
they both
1892.
yeah, they had both entirely retired from war. They didn't want to kill anybody anymore. Like, so if they had ridden out after them, they'd only be going after them to separate the other Native Americans from the white people, not to attack or kill anyone. Like, there's a lot of stuff in here.
They
that
would
is-
have been like, we got this, bros. Back
yeah, like
off.
yeah, get the fuck out of here. If they want to go to Montana, we'll take them to Montana. You go away. Like, it would have been a much more like, oh, okay, well, then, bye. Way less interesting of a movie.
A
But
much shorter film. But then we probably wouldn't have got the gun burial scene, which would have been probably great.
that it wouldn't have been as good of a movie. I think we should move into quotes, unless there's anything we haven't hit. I didn't ask anything about production design. We have 2 people from art department here.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
I mean, it's one of those movies that's mostly outside.
Yeah,
So it's a prop
mostly-
show more
yeah.
than anything else.
Oh, for sure. It's mostly props. I mean, I will say the burned down house looked amazing.
It looked very good. They probably
It
just
looked
burned it down.
great. Yeah, I mean, they probably did. I give them props for that. But I mean, coming from like a prop perspective, watching that movie, I'm like, oh man, propping up all those horses and like that would suck.
It's definitely.
Because there's so much gear. You know?
Oh, yeah.
And then you're just like in the middle of nowhere. So you have to like go
Pretty
through
much.
fields and
The only experience I have in this sort of a set deck environment was on my Tennessee movie. And the thing I learned during that movie was when you do scenes that involve a lot of tents, you can't be afraid of spiders, because spiders fucking love tents.
They're very intense.
Especially when it gets
Oh,
moist
man.
out.
Swing and a
but
And
No,
Yeah.
I don't care. I don't care if no one likes it. My life is better for it.
that's all I learned about when setting up a lot of tents, especially the cloth tents, because they just like hang out on
they're a
them.
pain in the ass.
Yeah.
We did it on Drunk History.
They get, yeah.
Yeah.
They get
And-
and they get
oh,
so
God.
hot inside. There's saunas
Yeah.
because of they're such thick material.
Just anything period related is like automatically a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Furniture,
Hot and
props.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
The one thing you kind
Wardrobe.
of mentioned it in a way. The one thing that the movie does really well that I liked was as people die, they keep their horses and they just turn into pack horses.
Yeah.
And as the movie goes
Mm-hmm.
on, they just have more and more horses just carrying shit behind them. I thought that's kind of a
And that's
good
pretty
attention
accurate.
to yeah. And it's a good
Yeah.
attention to detail that I feel like a lot of movies could just ignore that. Like, oh, they died, their horse must have died too. And we wouldn't have questioned it. Like, we would just like, oh, yeah. I would never even mention again, like, where'd their horses go? But this one actually paid attention to those things. And I like those little
Yeah.
moments of accuracy.
I also like that, it didn't leave me wondering, are they okay?
Yeah.
I get really concerned about like battle animals in movies. It seems unfair and kind of rude.
Yeah.
Especially horses. I mean, horses are the reasons that we have human or animal rights on film sets, because they used to actually throw them off cliffs and use wires to trip them with. They were really mean to horses back in the day.
Whoa. I had no idea.
Yep.
Still
Yeah.
not great to horses.
Yeah, westerns
Yeah,
were
luck.
terrible.
Yeah.
Like, you go back and watch a western from the 30s and 40s, and that horse is tripping on something. That's a wire that you can't see that they actually did use to trip that horse, and his legs might have broken.
Probably broke. Hooray for movies.
Yay!
All right, now we'll move into quotes. I can go first. Mine came. Let me see if I actually wrote the fucking thing down. I don't want to misquote it because I hate doing
I
that.
kind of remember my quote.
Oh, then go for it. You can go for it.
My quote is from Tommy, the PTSD depressed guy, during his big kind of breakdown scene, which is like it's a breakdown, and it's also just a resolution for that character. Because to me, I kind of loved the beauty and the finiteness of it, and he just goes to Christian Bale and says, "I gotta move on," and in that moment, he's saying, "I am going to find a way to die." That's what he's telling Christian Bale. And Christian Bale kind of recognizes it, but doesn't want to really believe it. So he's telling him to go into his tent. And it's a very emotional moment between them. Again, with Christian Bale's character, like being very genuine, like caring. And you can see the conflict in his face of, I know what you're telling me, but I don't want to listen. And I thought it was a great moment.
Mine's actually kind of related to that moment, and mine takes place after that guy has chased down Ben Foster and killed him, and you can see just how crushed. Like Christian Bale actually ends up sobbing over the corpse of his friend. It's just so sad that that's how this guy's life ended, which was suicide. Because clearly this guy did not want to kill himself. He wanted to find death naturally, and it just wasn't coming for him. So he's by the tree, and one of the guys who's joined his crew is trying to help, and what he says to him, and my quote was more for Christian Bale's reaction to the quote than the quote itself, but he tells him he got him good, and you can just see the look on Christian Bale's face of like, he was already dead because I shot him, he was going to bleed out, I don't care. And it's like a brutal moment. It's all just without a single word of dialogue. It's just all in Christian Bale's face. So if his face can be my quote, I guess Christian Bale's face is my quote.
Love it. I'll go next. Mine is from Christian Bale as well. Not just his face, but when he mentions, understand us when we lay our heads down here, we're all prisoners. I thought it was a really interesting way he said that.
So when Yellow Hawk is introducing his family, I kind of already brought this up, but he goes, and this is my daughter, Living Woman. That is the best name. And it's just like, I just want to know about her story. Like, how did you get that name?
Yeah.
For
Because
me,
that's
when
so cool.
I liked the name, but it also made me go, that sounds like an R&B song from the 90s. And it was just, to me, that was funny in my brain.
And I still want to
Like
know
Toni
that
Braxton.
song.
Yeah.
It'd been nice if they had delivered on that. Like, let her live.
The Living Woman.
Last but not least.
Mine's from Rosamund Pike, and it says, sometimes I envy the finality of death, the certainty, and I have to drive those thoughts away when I wake. And it was kind of what she was saying before. I just really like that. I mean, it kind of like gives you a glimpse into her thought process. I mean, she's lost everything, you know. What else does she have? And it kind of makes it seem like she's suicidal. I mean, I would be if I lost all my family.
In the beginning,
you know?
she is.
Yeah.
Like, she walks out to a field with her gun, and Christian Bale stops
Yeah.
her. So
That is
Yeah.
a rough scene.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very, yeah.
So review system for today, I hope will be easy, but we'll see. Fucking depressing movies. So that's entirely up to your interpretation. If you think that, like, say, The Shaggy Dog, the classic with Tim Allen, is fucking depressing, then you can go with Shaggy Dog. I'd prefer that you don't.
I have one.
Okay.
Suicide Squad, because it sucked ass and Adam Beach died too early, and there were a million more interesting stories that could have been told.
Okay. That's a tough one.
I mean, it's depressing if the whole time you're like, I wish I was watching a different movie.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go with The Witch. It's a movie that didn't actually get any award buzz, and it's still phenomenal. I actually think the story is a little bit tighter in that movie than this movie, but it's still, the messages you can get from it can be different depending on who you are, and the majority of everyone dies. So. But it's a good watch. You will not feel good at the end.
You do if you are the sort that would choose to live deliciously.
She's a prisoner at the end of that movie.
Or is she finally free
No, she's a
to
prisoner.
dance naked in the woods?
She has to sign a contract in blood. She's a prisoner.
I am going to go with this depressing film. I'm trying to remember the fucking name of it now, though.
Can't help you.
The hell was it?
Who's in
Amour. The French
Oh.
movie. we just had to take a short break while Chewie coughed up a lung. I don't remember where I was, but I picked Amour, which is a very slow plotting movie about a woman dying. And it is brutal to watch. The pacing is slow as molasses, but it is a very beautiful film and very well told. In fact, that one actually tells the story that I wanted to watch, and like this one. But I think if you're kind of into that tone, you'd probably like both movies.
I'm gonna say The Boy in the Striped Pajamas.
Oof.
That was
Purposely
very depressing.
Not watch that movie.
It's a really good movie,
I can't
It's
bring myself to do
depressing.
it.
but there's also that guilt of like, oh, we're treating Jews really badly, and you see what it's like to be in their shoes, and spoiler alert, the little Nazi boy ends up sneaking into the camp to play with the boy in the striped pajamas, and he ends up going in to take a death shower with the rest
They
of them.
both die? I
They
didn't know
both
that.
die. They both die. It's very sad. So a lot of people died in that movie too.
That movie was a fucking bummer.
Yes.
That's actually
Are
one
you
of the...
gonna cry?
I'm not going to cry.
Oh.
It's just, definitely never watching that movie.
Yeah. If you don't like depressing movies, don't watch that movie. I mean, it is a good movie. It's a great story. It's kind of a story about humanity that, we're all humans and you can connect on some sort of level. Just because you come from a family that hates Jews, doesn't mean that
Sounds
you
more
have to
like to
go.
me about how kids are pretty okay and then adults do terrible things.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so this one's going to be a stretch, but it is a fucking depressing movie, and I felt the exact same way at the end of this movie that I did in this movie. It's Blue Valentine. And no, even though no one dies at the end of Blue Valentine, a relationship dies. And that's about what I got, but I felt equally depressed after both movies.
I almost went with blue as the warmest color, and then I was like,
I didn't think that was depressing.
Both those
The
movies
ending
have a
of that
lot
movie
of
is
sex.
brutal. I mean, it
I
should
haven't
not
seen
have.
it in a while.
Yeah, the ending's really rough. It's rougher in the comic. The comic book ends like, fuck me. The movie actually ends much happier than the comic book for Blue as the Warmest Color. But you should watch and read both. That was everybody, right? Everyone went? Okay, cool. So that brings today's episode to a close. And although this means nothing to you listeners, that's the end of us recording for like 2 months. We did it, guys.
You'll
Yeah.
barely notice it, audience.
If we did it right, this will come out the week before the next episode, and it will mean nothing. But who knows?
But no, in between there, my body went through a horrible experience, and hopefully it comes out okay.
Yeah, we'll find that out in like 5 days.
Yeah.
We'll
6
have
days,
a
7
new
days.
co-host on the podcast.
Their words will not be
Chewie
totally there
made
yet.
one.
But okay, so we'll do a quick round of plugs. Check us out, www.athpod.com, where you can find all of our shows, including this one, of course, and our new show, Venture Bros, Adventure Brothers podcast. You can find all of our articles. You can find links to our Spotify playlist. Literally everything you could possibly want with After the Hype, you can find at our website, athpod.com. Please rate and review us on iTunes. Listen to us on Spotify. All that sort of good stuff.
Yeah, and even go to our website, leave it up on the browser, and just go to bed.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah, we like that. Do that. Just hit play on our YouTube thing and then walk away.
Go away.
Or listen. We'd like it better if you listen, but you know.
Yeah, and maybe engage with us and like talk about movies. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
But if you have to just leave, go ahead, leave it on.
See ya. Sam, anything to plug?
Not really. Keep watching Illumination movies. Go see The Grinch in November when it comes out.
Follow Laddie.
Oh, and follow my dog on Instagram. She's really cute. Her handle is Saint_Lottie. That's spelled Laddi. And also she works at my office and goes on brunch adventures. So, yeah.
She's a working dog.
She's a working girl.
Yeah.
Jackie, anything to plug?
If you want, you could follow me on Instagram at Jackie_Trudell44.
Cool.
Yeah.
You
and
do
what-
fun photography.
have you
and
met
you
the-
travel a lot.
Yeah, you could also follow me on my photography page. I'd rather you follow me there. It's Wildflower Child Photo on Instagram.
all spelled the way you assume you would spell it?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So thank you very much, everyone, for listening. Thank you, everyone, for coming on. And
Bye.
bye.